Welcome to the Secrets of Qigong Masters program, brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Tai Chi and Qigong coaching. To find out about Academy of Qidao and to see how you too can become a professional Tai Chi or Qigong coach, please visit qigongcoaching.com. This show is also brought to you by Mastery Magazine, featuring Masters of the Month. And to enjoy watching the interviews with Masters of the Month, please go to qigongmasters.com. Today I'm here with Jeff Primack. He is a well-known Qigong teacher, traveling all over the United States with this amazing events. Used to be called Qi Revolution, and now it's Qi Activation.
Right.
So thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. And just right off the bat, if you don't mind, let me ask you about the name change of the events, because that's been recent.
Right. So we have done the event under the Qi Revolution name for over 6 years, and then we have reached about 40,000 attendees. So it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then after 2012, everybody made a big thing out of 2012. I never made a big thing, but I went into retreat December 2012. And I actually 2 months I stayed in retreat. So it was like one of the longest I had ever really unplugged from, working, and really was just doing a lot of Qigong. Yeah, I was in Hawaii actually, doing a lot of meditation and eating properly and purifying. And when I came out of it, I was like, it's 2013 now, and maybe the revolution is over, and it's time for the activation.
It's time for evolution.
Evolution's a tricky word. Some people don't respond well to that word. So instead of Qi evolution, I said Qi activation, right? Because also one of the new themes of my seminar is a lot of reflexology has been added this year. That's new to the curriculum, and also the Kundalini meditation is new to the curriculum. So it's like the theme is like activating, through pressing on points we activate, through meditation we activate our internal Qi, and it just seemed that word is, some people associate activate with cell phone activation, but to me it represents like it's the start of a reaction, right? It's the beginning of when the spaceship takes off. They activate the tank, the engine lights,
Engage.
Yeah, so it seems like an appropriate title, but I'm just having fun with it.
So the next time will be the switch to name something like Qi Rocket Boost.
Qi Revelation.
Qi Revelation.
Yeah.
Well, some people may not resonate with that one.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the opposite of those people who don't like the evolution.
Right.
So when you look at the development of your events and your work in general, I see that you are bringing from different sources various information, materials, some meditation from here, and some, like I know you sent Jamie and perhaps some other folks to Jerry Allen Johnson to get some column of light meditation or something like that.
So I never studied with Jerry Allen Johnson.
I know.
Right. And I obviously don't have the right to teach his Qigong, having never studied with him. One of my students, David Beaudry, is a medical Qigong master with Mr. Johnson. So, but he's also, I was his first Qigong teacher. He has taught a lot of workshops with me, so I don't place limits on my students. He is one of my top students. He is a very powerful teacher. But he studied with Jerry Allen Johnson and me. But I don't have any connection with his Qigong, and nor does he have a connection with mine. I just always encourage people, it's like, if you want to go learn something, go study with him or her, really go learn, and then at the end of the day, use what is most useful to you. And not to say that I am the only person with anything useful, because that's complete bullshit. But the thing that people tell me about my Qigong is they use it a lot, like the 9-breath method and the forms, and so they get practiced. So I'm kind of proud of that aspect. But as far as like other Qigong teachers, there's so much that I haven't learned. Like he knows way more Qigong than me. Jerrion Johnson,
amazing.
he's a senior to me, of course, and he has gone and undertaken that path, you know, of acquiring massive amounts of information about Qigong. And my path as growing up in Miami and wanting to teach high school kids and like people who normally wouldn't do Qigong, like I started out teaching young people, you know, and realizing right away certain Qigong was not cool to teach, not fun. People didn't care what it did.
It's like watching the grass grow.
Yeah, but certain Qigong like got you high, right? And people were like, wow, that Qigong made me like high, you know, or like I feel good when I did that. So I would always be more attracted to the Qigong that would get people to be like, wow, so I feel something, you know. So for me it's about the feeling, not about the movements.
The ecstatic Qigong.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we should trademark this. This sounds really good.
What, trademark?
Ecstatic dance.
Right.
And I think this is something that I've heard from other Qigong teachers as well, that the great reason, maybe not the first and not the only reason to study Qigong, is just because it feels great.
Yeah.
It feels amazing. It may not look like much.
Sometimes it's not so beautiful, and sometimes it is, you know.
From a third party's point of view,
right.
It's like seriously boring to watch somebody practicing Qigong if they are experiencing the internal process.
Mm-hmm.
It may not look like much on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but to experience it from within, it's a totally different story.
Right.
So when you decided to get involved with acupressure or reflexology, what inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, I always am around massage therapists because I give the CEUs to the massage community, as you know.
Sure.
As probably anybody who knows about Qigong, they know that that's one of the things I'm known for. So I get a lot of massage, and I've been around a lot of massage therapists, and I've been blessed to learn reflexology from a few Qigong masters. They have their own way of doing it, and then there's traditional reflexology too, which you can learn from books. And I find that the real reflexology, ultimately, if you want to get something valuable out of watching this, is how you push on those points. And most people don't really know how to stimulate the point with enough intensity. And so, like, just, you know, if you know someone knows Qigong, they'll grab your foot and just barely push, and you can be, you know, it's like, yeah, because they know, they're just using the angle, and they have the technique right. So people trying to learn reflexology to relieve pain, it's just excellent to work. But if you just push, and it's like, if the person's just sitting there, and if they have a look on their face like it's hurting, I'm not saying that that's what makes it work only, but if the reflexology, if the person is looking all pleasant and relaxed, that's not reflexology. At least that's how I was trained, you know.
Who trained you?
Well, there's several teachers. One teacher I learned from was Tom Wu. He's a naturopathic physician and a reflexologist, and you know, he did some seminars in reflexology that I was helping him with. And also there's other Qigong masters that use that trigger point philosophy on the feet. Actually, one time Tom triggered somebody's foot, and the guy actually had let's just make an interesting story. He had a nocturnal emission during sleep, you know, ejaculate at night, which Qigong masters trying sometimes to conserve. So he pushed a point, and 3 nights in a row, you know, he had this like really extreme prostate sexual response from just the ankle point. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's the prostate right there. I was like, I couldn't believe the connection between this and something between the legs.
So
it was so strong, you know. And then seeing how he used it for pain relief, and you know, and really he used his knuckles, you know, a lot to stimulate the top of the feet. So I just observe, I watch, you know. It's like I'm not trying necessarily to create something of that, oh, it has to be, you know, my style. But what I will do is I will watch to see what, this has been my way for 10, 15 years. I watch what the Qigong master is doing, you know, and when you see the little details with like the hand movements, lowering thumb, relaxing shoulders, little details, you know, people when they're watching a seminar, they can miss that stuff. You know, you can, even in a book, you can miss that stuff. Even watching it live, you can miss that stuff. Sure. But somebody who's trained, you know, to see every little detail. So what I would do is I would observe the details, and then I would relay that to my students and kind of simplify the understanding. Because at the end of the day, I think Qigong needs to be simple if we're going to experience a cultural revolution with Qigong. Even reflexology, it has to be something simple. Teach the key points, how to stimulate, how to get the result, and, you know, not try to make it too mythical or complicated.
Well, I also integrate pressure points and acupressure into my Qigong trainings. One of the modules of the advanced Qidao program that I teach is called the magic of touch, and it pertains specifically to what you just describing. The little details of how does your thumb relate to your forearm? How does the elbow? Is it sticking out too much? Or is the tension in your shoulder joints or shoulder muscles around the joint? Or is the hand on a center line or somewhere off center line? This type of things make a huge difference. You're absolutely right. And then when you reach the point, for example, and you apply pressure, it's not just the pressure straight down into the body. It's almost always going to be at an angle. And really choosing the angle that makes the best effect is going to make all the difference.
Right.
And then once that effect has been caused, reversing that so that you essentially contract that muscle, for example, that is under the surface of the skin where you're applying pressure. And then as it releases the tension, you assist it with relaxation, go with the flow of relaxation. That makes a huge difference. That's why I call it the magic of touch. I would imagine that something like that exists also in your system of reflexology that you teach in your Qi activation.
Well, the premise of reflexology at the real simple level is the light is coming down through the byway, the heaven's door acupoint, and it shines a light past our heart, lungs, all the organs, and the shadow of them is on the bottom of the feet. That's how I was taught. I thought it's a beautiful way to explain it. Whether it's true or not isn't the most important thing. It's the light, the shadow is on the feet, right? So if you press the point for the shoulder, which happens to be, you know, right here, under the pinky toe, right under here. And I just did it this weekend in Portland. This lady had a shoulder problem. I always look for the shoulder problem first. Not because like, oh, I want something easy, but I know that the reflexology is very effective for shoulder problem. So, because I know exactly where that is on the foot. So I go there, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The lady puts some white flower oil on the shoulder to neurologically connect the shoulder with the oil. Then when you put the oil on that point, that makes another connection. And there's something about that combination, and it's just what I was taught, you know, highly effective. Like, you know, she's like, wow, afterwards, just that foot point. But she did not like me while I was stimulating the point, you know, she's like, and at the weekend before, because I do it at every Qi Revolution, I pick like 2 people to demonstrate it. The lady was grabbing my hair. She's pulling my hair. I'm stimulating. She's pulling my hair. She has carpal tunnel syndrome. So her wrists, and the more painful their injury is, the worse it's going to hurt on the feet. So I knew this lady is going to be bad. And she pulling my hair, but then afterwards she was like, wow, like in front of the group, she was like, it does feel a lot better, you know, so. But they don't like when you do it.
So you have to put them down on a massage table so that they can reach for you.
Yeah. It actually works better if I can have them sit up. Something about having them sit up is better, I think.
But it's dangerous. You're within the reach.
Yeah. It's true.
They can punch you out.
Yeah.
That's why it's also important to add martial arts skills to training reflexology.
Yeah.
So you block it.
Yeah, can block blows while giving treatment.
Or duck. So when you added also another element that you mentioned, the Kundalini meditation. What is that like? I mean, I understand that Kundalini yoga is a part of the Sikh spiritual tradition. So is it something that you tap into, or how
Well,
did it go?
it's an experience. The journey of how I actually began to have a Kundalini meditation as part of my program did not happen overnight. I actually, in my earlier years before I did any big workshops, one of my teachers, who's no longer alive, we did a workshop called Kundalini Awakening Process. And I designed a manual for him based on his techniques. So I was good at like designing manuals, as you can see. So he liked that, you know, he liked that. And we taught the workshop together over 10 times, the two of us. You know, it was an expensive workshop too. Only get like 50 people at a time, you know, not like my stuff now. Much more intimate gatherings, and he would give Shakti Pat, and you know, to help awaken the energy. And we were running microcosmic orbit all the time. Essentially, that's the essence of his practice. In a certain way, he had a special way to run that orbit, but anyone who knows Qigong knows what we mean by orbits, so giving you some key details. And but the truth is that didn't work for me. So my story gets frustrated after about a year or so. I cannot sense my own Kundalini has moved or awakened. So I found another teacher, and that teacher said Kundalini was like a divine blessing. The way they explained it was kind of, and I later learned, now my thinking is Holy Spirit that people encounter in church and temple and different religious settings where they do not really know what's happening when they're shaking, filled with spirit. You know, it's like a religious phenomenon, happens all over the world. That filled with Holy Spirit experience, to me now, that's the Kundalini is moving inside. And then but God initiates that experience. To me, that's my current understanding of Kundalini. Why I wasn't able to awaken it through just the technique alone, because I was trying to use just the technique alone to awaken, like a manipulation technique. And I have since learned that that path to awaken Kundalini is maybe impossible, or maybe for someone else, but for me, the real way was the surrender. I feel that the Kundalini awakening it's kind of, the only way to say is, it can be done from another person to another person, can help initiate someone else's Kundalini, but ultimately it's God's blessing that does that. So if the practitioner doesn't have that awareness that is doing the attunement or Shaktipat, may not work. And so to me it's a spiritual energy, and it's unpredictable. It's not always known what Kundalini will do, but I have never really seen a negative case of Kundalini syndrome from my students doing the practice, even though they might be shaking a little bit after the meditation is over, the energy is running real strong, or there's like a flame in the spine, or they're hot. There's never more energy than people can handle. Usually all the negative Kundalini experiences is when people don't know what has happened to them. It's like they have no knowledge that there's been an activation inside. So it is scary.
Or sometimes people get overly zealous, and they just spend hours upon hours every day doing certain practices, activating their Kundalini or opening different chakras. And that actually is different from surrender.
Right.
And that may actually be one of the reasons why people experience Kundalini syndrome, is because they are using their own power instead of inviting a power that's greater than their personal power to come and do most of the work.
This is very wise words. Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's exactly...
Yeah, because you're... Like I said, I have never seen anybody have a negative Kundalini experience who had awakened it through divine blessing. And divine blessing just mean usually that person was meditating, fasting, but not, you know, it wasn't... It can't really say anything. There's the word surrender is what I learned about Kundalini. And so I wrote a book called Sudden Enlightenment of the World, and it talks about Kundalini, like what would happen if everybody's Kundalini went off on the same day. So it's kind of, that's fiction, you know, it's not, it's pretend, but it's entertaining. if you like good stories.
Sure.
But the meditation, I actually made this meditation because I got an email from somebody in Greece. He's an instructor. He said, I would like to learn. You studied with my teacher, who is dead now. He was dead when he contacted me. But you did Kundalini awakening process. That's what he said. He said, his teachings. What can you give me a CD or a tape or something? So I was like, maybe I should make, using the 9-breath method and all the breathing techniques, which I didn't know back then, and using the idea of surrender, and using the concepts of surrendering to the source, and using some of the ancient visualizations that are typically used for Kundalini arousal. It kind of combines all of those. So I only have one meditation for Kundalini, that's it. But it's about a 40-minute meditation, and it usually sends people in full body vibration, and it's how I end the workshop. I like to end it with it because it's the most powerful thing. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it's the way that I end the workshops that conclude the basic Qigong practitioner certification programs. I actually have an initiation into the practice of empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the way that Tibetan lamas often talk about empowerment as they are going to bestow empowerment on their students or their followers, I understand and practice empowerment as a self-empowerment. So I initiate my students in practicing self-empowerment, how they learn to develop this sensitivity of energy, enter the Qigong state, if you will, the state in which you can perceive the flow of Qi and then experience the flow and surrender to the flow. Literally, instead of trying to move the Qi where you think it should go or just playing with it, you allow it to play with you.
Mm-hmm.
You allow it, the energy flow to engage your body in experiences that are completely unpremeditated, spontaneous and
Spontaneous Qigong.
Spontaneous Qigong.
Yeah.
It's something that some people have experienced both in China and America and places like that. However, there is a certain process that makes the spontaneous Qigong very applicable.
Mm-hmm.
What it means is that you can apply it to personal empowerment. You can work with another person to assist them with their healing. You can heal yourself. You can protect yourself if somebody is projecting any aggressive energy, either physically or non-physically. You also develop a greater sense of energy flow so that you can be more in the flow just generally in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in my book, the main objective of practicing these arts such as Qigong. You can be in the flow of your life. What else can you ask for? Now, when you practice the Kundalini awakening or activation, do you refer in the meditation that you created to any particular spiritual traditions or sources?
Certainly the usage of the lotus flower on top of the head in the meditation as a very time-honored image to use to awaken Kundalini is to see the lotus flower on top of the head. Now, so that's a tradition to me, because that's not my idea, right? I know this from other Kundalini practices. That effect of the lotus flower on top of the head, Qigong says the mind leads the Qi, right, as you know. So when you have your mind on top of your head, even if you visualize a pink elephant up there, okay, it's going to draw energy up there. I like the lotus flower instead of the pink elephant. But the point, that's also, I think there's probably, in addition to just holding our attention and drawing Qi through that mechanism, I think the imagery does matter. I think there's something to be said for some of like the ancient images of Qigong, like the cauldron and the boiling water, and some of the ancient imagery that is being used for thousands of years, that there's a power when we draw upon that, and so the images are definitely part of what is customary about Kundalini. Those meditation images are old.
Oh, absolutely. The imagery makes a huge difference. Visualization is a major practice in both yoga and Qigong and other meditative systems. The reason I was asking about references to any spiritual traditions or paths is I remember us talking in the past about how some people that come to Qi Revolution were not really open to, Eastern traditions.
Yeah.
So
That's another reason why I teach it on the last day. Yeah, the first day I keep things real, I go in stages, because, but the Kundalini is like, we're going to be teaching in Tennessee next month. It's a 400 people in Tennessee. That's a very conservative town. The very first time we went to Tennessee, they were reading their Bibles in the room. In the room as I'm teaching, they had Bibles, a lot of them. And they were really nervous until the third day.
They were trying to negate the
they were just trying to be at peace. And so I found the best thing that I could do was to remind them that first and foremost for me as a teacher, that God is a part of my Qigong. Like once they saw that, I said, look, God is here. God is in the room. There's no separation. God is right here, right now. Let's invite God in right now. You're worried about it. I see you're worried about it. Let's invite God in here right now. Hey, let's invite whoever you need to be here, your higher power. They are here right now. And then we can talk about Kundalini, right? Because God is here. The whole fear is God. Somehow I'm going to leave God out. Somehow Jesus is going to get left out. No, let's bring them in. Don't be afraid of it. It can't make it a religious experience. My workshop can't be denominational towards a religion. Right. But to me, and the atheists sometimes have issue with me, occasionally, but to me, God is not religion, okay? God is beyond any religion. So we talk about the source of life. I try to use words that then alleviate fear, but Kundalini is definitely a word that can create fear. So I always learn to say a few afterwards to kind of explain it more.
Well, it's interesting because for a number of years, probably 15 years and more, I have been a member of a spiritual brotherhood that called Subud, and it's an international organization of hundreds of thousands of people who belong to various religions and no religions whatsoever. And essentially the brotherhood is dedicated to allowing people to come together and practice spirituality without religion, surrender to the divine powers without putting any labels on it, without putting any judgment or any prejudice, and at the same time it's an amazing experience. When, for example, I go to Subud gatherings or world congresses, there are like literally 3,000-4,000 people of all kinds come from all over the world, and they practice surrender to the divine power. And in a sense, I see that it's totally doable. It's possible to create this container, this social agreement that it is okay to belong to whatever nationality, religion, social group, whatever. You can still be accepted, and your experiences will be valid no matter from which point of view you look at them.
Absolutely.
I think that level of acceptance would be a real miracle to bring to the Qigong world, because I still find in Qigong communities people sometimes are protective of their styles, or like...
No kidding, really? Yeah, I know.
Well, thousands of people who are watching us right now probably are smiling because they know what it's like to be in Qigong community themselves, because 99% of the viewers of our show practice Qigong one way or another. And so, in a sense, I wanted to put out the message of integration, of unifying the energy fields, no matter which Qigong styles or schools or types of Qigong we belong to. It's all the same energy field, unified field of energy that we or swimming in. We're surrounded with and we're made of. And so that's essentially is the reason why I'm doing this show, is to create the movement of integral energy arts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from that point of view, what would be the next level of evolution, so to speak, in your work, if you can imagine looking 2, 3, 4 years from now?
You know, for me, I've asked that question a lot to myself lately, because I'm always looking for the next thing, you know, of how to expand Qigong. But, you know, I live for Qigong. Like, I really, like, people who know me, even my family, like, I tell my mom, like, my mom's like, why don't you call? I said, because I live for Qigong. Sometimes I call. I'm a good kid sometimes. But sometimes my family has taken a hard hit for me to be this dedicated, you know, and I do live for Qigong. And I feel like, you know, so many people have attended the workshop that we do, but I really want to see things happening, you know, in bigger numbers. I think I'm still wanting to see entertainment utilize Qigong. Like, where, like, even if people, you know, at rock concerts, you know, use the 9-breath method to take a 5-minute moment for peace, you know, just 9-breath method, full body vibration, that'll beat all the drugs they're taking at that concert for sure. And it'll give the people, you know, it's just like, I just want more people to do Qigong, you know.
Qigong rave.
Yeah.
I think that would be fantastic.
You got to be careful with the rave because of they're on the wrong kind of drugs. But the point is, you know, when Qigong is not just practiced on retreats, when Qigong is not just practiced, even in my workshops, even if we get 2,000 people at our big one, it's still not enough to me, because there's so many people that are like, Qi what? Qi, what's Qi? They don't even they think, oh, Qi is energy, but even that, I don't even like that definition of energy being Qi. I think that's one of my pet peeves about Qigong, is the translation of Qi into energy. That's such a bad translation for a Western audience, because energy is like Exxon and Shell, and when you type in energy on the internet, you will see gas and oil come up first.
Look, energy, E equals mc squared.
But here's the thing, but what does the energy do, right? The Qi moves the blood. Now, so many people with poor blood circulation understand that. It's like, you can stand still and move as much blood as if you jogged for 5 miles while standing still. That's what energy does. Energy moves your blood, moves past your shoulder pain, because the reason you have the shoulder pain is because you haven't had blood going through there properly, right? So it's all about Qi. Qi moves energy. Energy moves blood. So I always try to remind people, like, of that biological connection to the Qi, so that they don't just think it's all metaphysical.
Well, also, from a metaphysical point of view, we talk about mind-body connection, and I always say, you know, if the mind and body can be viewed as two sides of the same coin, so to speak, then Qi is what this coin is made of. So in other words, Qi is everything, and the image of one side or the other side of the coin is mind and body. And when one moves, the other moves, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So there's essentially no separation if you take a view of the energy or Qi, rather than just looking at the body or just as mind. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at the say, future development of Qi activation, where do you see it going?
Your guess is as good as mine, but I'm not a very good visionary, and that's part of my success too, is because I stay focused on one video at a time, one event at a time. You know, it's like, I'm doing this tour that I'm on now, you know, I get really tunnel vision, you know, so it's like, I just got to do what I'm doing well. But I ultimately would like to see Qigong being taught more in schools, and more to Vietnam and Iraq veterans that are coming back. You know, even now they're still coming back, you know, super high suicide rates, and at every seminar there's a lot of vets that we get. It's not just healers. We got a lot of vets come, and when I see their response, that makes me want to drop what I'm doing and just help them. But I can't, I can't just do that. But I want to do more for that group of people because they've worked so hard to, serve our country. I feel like maybe the Qigong being a warrior art, that those warriors could really use it,
Absolutely. And they could also become professional Qigong practitioners. And that would make basically a possibility for them to make a living, not trying to seek employment somewhere, but actually working for themselves, or maybe working at wellness centers or retreat centers. I think that would be an amazing transition for any warrior. I mean, I'm a veteran myself of a different Afghanistan war,
Okay.
And that creates a totally different approach to living a lifestyle that is radically based on understanding of peaceful warriorship rather than shoot 'em up warriorship. But it still uses the idea, the tradition of I'm a warrior, I'm not a wuss, for example. I don't get pushed around easily by everyone. So there's a certain degree of responsibility, self-reliance, inner strength. And so I think that veterans would really resonate with the message that you're putting out.
Yeah, and they do. We've been getting awesome results with them. And the other thing I'm really interested in, as you know, is the food healing.
Right.
And really exciting work is we're doing with the HIV/AIDS. And we have a lady now, she did the antiviral food protocol that we have, which it involves eating a lot of the antiviral fats and taking certain mushrooms to boost immunity and things like that. Well, after doing the protocol for 90 days, her viral count went from 1 million to 1,000.
That's incredible.
It's totally freaking incredible. And now she's undetectable. And she's been undetectable for over a year. And of course, she's become a level 3 Qigong instructor and a food healing instructor.
Of course.
So she's out there teaching, and we have a few people reverse the hepatitis using the food. And I get real excited talking about reversing virus with food because I know it's not Qigong, this is Qigong interview, but the thing is that to me is like Qigong Masters knew stuff like that. They knew how to use the food for resolving disease, and the foods that I recommend and supplements that I recommend are usually very inexpensive, because I don't cater to the wealthy, and as you know, with my 4 days for $129, I consider a price for everything. So the fact that these remedies are out there and they're inexpensive for people to use, and combine that with the Qigong, the food and the Qigong together, I feel like could transform healthcare.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
There's definitely an idea of using food as medicine. I think we're not the first ones talking about it. Probably Hippocrates was talking about the same thing.
Yeah. But Hippocrates, and he started it, right? He started it. But then eventually somewhere along the way, we started segmenting all the diseases into little categories. And now we poison the kidney to save the liver, and we forget the body is one unit, and so we have to treat the whole, some people's like, what do I do for my skin? It's like, you just need to have big, huge bowel movements, go to the bathroom. No, but don't you have, some food is good for my skin, right? No, empty the bowel movement. Your whole body is one organism.
Prunes.
Yeah, something. You have to, if you want the skin to look good, it's a reflection of the inside. Don't put cream on the skin, it's the inside, but so we have, even the thinking has to be healed too. Yeah.
Absolutely, and thinking, as we were just talking about mind and body, it's part of the entire system. So the mind is not separate from the way that the skin looks. As a matter of fact, 99% skin conditions are psychosomatic.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
If you look at any skin conditions related to psoriasis...
that can't be true. I'll tell you why. And then I'll give you a chance to respond.
Okay.
Make it interesting for the viewers. We have a little disagreement
Okay.
for a moment.
I love that.
Okay, so Like Anissa, you know Anissa, she's the chef that cooks for us. You've met her. She's her husband have psoriasis since a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
But he eats Twinkies, McDonald's, all this crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
He complains about her food all the time because she cooks all vegan, Indian, high phytochemical. She does what we recommend. He's not on board, okay? He finally caves. He's like, all right, I'll try your food. But in 2 weeks, all his spots are gone. In 2 weeks, man. How could it be psychosomatic if in 2 weeks he's now not eating fast food and they go away? So
Easy.
Yes, tell me.
There was a transformation in his consciousness. He actually decided to do that which he has been resisting all along.
Right.
In other words, there was a major breakthrough for him, and that breakthrough obviously led to changing his diet,
Mm-hmm.
changing the way that he related to the food that his partner was putting on the table,
Right.
probably changing his relationship to her,
Yeah.
changing relationship to you, to the whole community that he was exposed to, probably change relationship to himself, to the world that he lived in.
Right.
Of course, it's a psychosomatic experience.
Right. But it's also the removal of toxins too.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I don't want to say that it's all psychological, so
Okay.
psychosomatic.
That's all I was saying. You know, it's a balance, right? But
Absolutely.
we understand. I mean, of course, there's the emotional parts of disease.
It's not just all in the head.
Right. But at the end of the day, you gotta put the Twinkie down. At the end of the day, one of my teachers said, he's like the wider the bread, the sooner you're dead. And I thought some people respond like, "Ooh, that's harsh, Jeff." You know, like that's not the wider your bread, the sooner you're dead. That's harsh. But it gets people to think and question, you know, like what they put in their mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a very important element, that people will start eating things differently when they realize that the values have changed. They reevaluated the values. Once the person reevaluates the values, he can or she can make any changes in his or her life. Until their values have not changed, they will be stuck in the paradigm of thinking and the course of action that they have been following so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my...
There's a lot of wisdom in that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my main approach, to help people reevaluate their values. I don't judge their values, tell you, that's crap what you're thinking, it's
Right.
just no good. I don't tell them, you should switch from thinking this way to thinking that way. I'm just telling them, hey, is this the only way to think? Have you considered any options? Maybe some options will give you different results from the way that you getting. If you follow this course of action and you get this result, but you would rather have that result, what course of action would lead you there? If you keep on this course of action and you expect that result, that's a sign of insanity, right? So how do you transition from this course of action to that? You have to have different inner drive. You have to have different energy becoming the driving force.
And
for you.
tools.
And
And it helps to have a wife who cooks. That helped. That she's a master chef, so that actually was working in his favor. I think those are all factors that help. I think I always tell people, don't try to do things alone. I think is smart. You know, ultimately we all make the spiritual journey alone. You know, the path through the tunnel of light that we will all make one day. You will make that alone at first. Your guide might be there. Whatever. You are alone. It's up. Your karma is your karma. Even your wife's karma is not your karma. So it's like it's up to us. But to try and do qigong alone, to try to do food healing alone, to try to do tai chi alone, to try to do yoga or any discipline, if you don't have that community, I feel that you will be missing something so essential. That even the Taoist immortals, there was a couple together. You know, where two or more are gathered. So, you know, find some people to practice with, if anything.
That is a really powerful understanding of how to and empower people to actually follow the path.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I work with people, most of my work is long distance. The Qigong coaching that I pioneered 10 or 12 years ago mostly done through video calls like Skype or other video chat systems. And I always encourage my coaching clients and students to find a practice partner. Or I say, look, I have another student of mine in your town. Let me get you in touch with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can become practice partners.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more motivating. You are also being motivated by other person and you're motivating them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of serving them as a catalyst for their growth as they're serving you as catalyst for yours.
Absolutely.
And then there is also inadvertently you are going to be engaging and coaching them. So when the time arrives that you decide to go on an apprenticeship to become a Qigong coach, you have already experienced it yourself so many times working with your practice partner. It's going to be easy.
Well, the whole success of Qigong in China during the 1980s explosion of Qigong, it's called the Qigong fever. Yeah, in the 1980s there was over 100 million people practicing, and that's 10% of the population, making it the most popular sport in Chinese history.
In the world.
Yeah. So, but the reason it got to 100 million practitioners was because of the Qigong groups that formed. You know, without that social structure of, okay, let's meet every Tuesday at the tree or at the university, you know, that whole like, hey, let's get, and it wasn't usually 2 or 3 people, it was big groups, you know, and they were social functions, and functions where people could talk to each other about what they were feeling. And we might not have Qigong groups that big in America yet, but, you know, even just getting together with a few people to practice, I think is really helpful. And if you can get to a group where there's a few hundred people practicing, I don't know where that's happening. No, I'm just kidding. You know, we have the big workshops, but that's our claim to fame, because to right now, nobody get the group energy field of that size in North America right now. So we're proud that we can get 400 or 500 and sometimes 2,000 people together under one roof, you know, but even if you live in Oklahoma, you live in Kansas, you still got to practice.
Sure.
Yeah, doesn't even you can't get to the big event. You got to get some people together, and you know, and I think isn't the founder of World Tai Chi Day? He's in Kansas.
Kansas City.
Yeah, I think that is
Bill
cool.
Douglas.
Yeah, that is so cool that Bill Douglas is in Kansas. Go Kansas, you know. It's like wherever you are, create something. You know, don't be lazy. You know, get some people together, and you say you love Qigong, then get some people together.
Well, I've just interviewed a fellow from Missouri, Michael Lomax.
Mm-hmm.
He's in rural Missouri. I interviewed another Qigong master, J. Michael Wood, from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
There are Qigong practitioners
everywhere. Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding them and not feeling like it has to be this right kind of Qigong because otherwise they're all bad.
Right.
They're not. They're actually decent Qigong practitioners. And there may be different techniques, maybe different styles, maybe different approaches. As you gather a little bit more in your ability, you become more skilled. The more experiences you have, the more experienced you become. And so you literally start doing that which you've done, basically amalgamation of different methods that you've gathered from a number of different teachers.
Yeah.
It's an authentic experience of Qigong, not just following somebody else's routine to the T.
Yeah. Well, I was blessed mainly because in the beginning of my career, I was flying in these Qigong masters and doing workshops with them. But I am like a hawk, so I notice every detail. Sometimes they did not like that because I would memorize their form quickly. So like I would learn quickly, but I just want to be clear, just so your listeners know and so you know, I don't teach the Qigong that I learned from them because that's not allowed. That's illegal. You don't just, I would never propagate and create wealth for myself with another teacher's Qigong. I don't do that. So I really learned the concept.
So you reverse engineered what it is that they were doing.
There's a little bit of reverse engineer is a creative way to describe it. It's concept.
Right.
You know, it's concept, you know, and then I took a concept oftentimes that was hard to work with. You know, because Qigong is mysterious sometimes, you know that. Or it's weird. Keep your abdomen like this. I tried to explain it, and I tried to explain it 100 times. And then finally, the 100th time, it's like, I could see that audience understood it when I said it that way.
Mm.
And I would never be as an effective teacher if I didn't practice it with all these people, watching the blank look on their face as I tried to explain something, and realizing they have no clue what I'm saying. Okay, let me say it this way. And then finding better ways to explain things. And so I'm just lucky to have the teaching experience, and I'm so grateful to teach Qigong. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there is one more thing that I would rather be doing, honestly.
You?
Yes.
What's that?
Dream yoga.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, as you probably know, in Tibet and other countries, there has been an amazing tradition of dream yoga. I think you studied with
Sure.
Storch, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a Taoist tradition of dream practices as well as the Tibetan tradition. And the idea is the same, that you learn how to become awake in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And learn how to awaken not only in your night dreams, but also in your daydreams.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that you become awake in this big dream that we call daily life,
Mm-hmm.
as awake as you can be in your dream at night,
Mm-hmm.
when you become lucid. And that lucidity allows you to live a lucid lifestyle. You literally transform the way that you relate to everything and everyone in your daily life by becoming awake to the fact that everything is one. Like in a dream, everything is made of the same energy of consciousness.
Professor Tanya says, if you can be aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming, then you'll be laser focused while you're awake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it bleeds into your daily life.
Yeah.
And the way that I teach dream yoga is, it's really step by step with some preliminary practices that are so foundational that it's easy to become lucid.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Do you dream lucidly most nights?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's impressive. I don't, I'll be honest with you. My energy is too yang right now. When I'm on the tour traveling, I make my energy very yang to insulate, So if I become more yin, if I purify my diet and don't eat any eggs or fish and things like that, and I purify, and then I will start dreaming more lucidly. I find when I eat the more dense foods and certain activities make me less. Is diet affected a little bit? I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm almost intentionally not trying to do dream yoga because it makes me very yin, and I want to be a little denser right now. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you want to be dense, and sometimes you want to be light as a feather. So but my experience with conscious streaming has led me to believe that the energy bodies that we are in when we are dreaming, we can develop those. And yes, you can pick up a cup in your dream and feel the coldness of it and feel the texture of the cup, and you can talk to someone in the dream. And I remember I asked one character, I said, what year is it? And they told me the year, and as you can get information, and it's very interesting, At the end of the day, you want to do dream yoga, I want to be able to do 100 push-ups on my fist without stopping. That's the yoga that I want right now. It's so vain, right? It seems so vain. Like Jeff just wants to be a badass. Really, it's true. Okay. But I also, at the end of the day, I was just teaching the conscious dreaming in Hawaii 3 weeks ago. So I'm not trying to negate the sincerity and the amazingness of practicing at night, because I know conscious dreaming is very important,
Well, the beautiful thing about it is that it does not separate you from the daily reality. It doesn't make you less engaged. In fact, it makes you more engaged, because if you engage in your dream when you're conscious in your dream, you can actually engage in the same way in your daily life more than you used to. You become more in tune with the flow of things in your daily life, like the flow of dreaming.
Yeah.
And if you go against the flow of dreaming at night, that's the royal road to turn any dream into a nightmare. Well, that's how most people live their daily lives. They're living a nightmare of their daily lives because they're not feeling the flow of things. They're going against the flow often, and then they wonder why they're living such a crappy lifestyle, or they're struggling and suffering in their lives. And so essentially it is a way to take care of pretty much 99% of suffering. And then what happens is that we stop.
You give percentage to suffering.
I do, absolutely. It's a really amazing thing. It's like, I would say 50% of suffering comes from thinking about things that we wish didn't happen in the past. And the other 50% comes from thinking about things that we don't want to happen in the future. And so if we address each of these...
Where's the 1% suffering when I stubbed my toe?
It's not suffering, it's pain. That's different. Suffering is thinking, oh my God, I'm going to feel...
So you use the word thinking. So you're defining suffering as a mental thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Suffering is a mental process. That
pain being the physical aspect of
exactly.
that. Okay.
You can be in pain, you stab your toe, but if you don't project into the future, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to walk on this foot ever in my life, you're going to be hobbling and you'll be in pain, but you're not creating suffering for yourself. But if you get engaged in a daydream, essentially, every thought about the future is a daydream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to run the 10K that I was going to. Boom, you are suffering immediately because you are thinking about that which you don't want to experience, or you wish you would, but you won't be able to. So you're dreading the future in a sense that you create it in your mind.
So how does the dream yoga fix this issue?
It teaches you how to recognize the flow of energy in the dream, since everything is made of energy. You literally learn how to recognize that if there is something that you resonate with, your energy flows freely in that direction. You enjoy that experience more. You are in the flow. If you focus your attention on something that you don't resonate with, your energy doesn't flow freely in that direction. You may focus your attention on that which you don't resonate with because you are dreading that, or you're afraid of that, or you wish it didn't happen, or you have certain guilt or remorse about it that happened in the past. And the more you focus on that which you don't resonate with, the more you will suffer.
I get it.
And so it's a pretty simple logic that creates a very elegant maneuver of consciousness. If you choose not to suffer, you don't have to focus on that which you don't resonate with.
Well, if the world can accomplish the lack of suffering in this way, then you will be breakthrough teacher for humanity.
I am definitely dedicated to accomplishing exactly that.
Yeah.
And that's why I also am here with you, because I believe that together we can join forces and bring that awareness to more people. That's why we're sharing what we have to share with thousands of people on the internet, because I believe that this is the breakthrough in human evolution. It's like we are on the cutting edge of human evolution. It's like giraffes. They didn't have long necks. Back,
Here comes the giraffe analogy to describe the evolution. You know, but here's the thing though, at the end of the day, now we're no longer evolving our necks, right? It's evolving the pineal gland, evolving the inside, you know? As Yoda says, size is, don't judge me by my size, I'll still set you on your butt, Yoda is essentially saying, don't judge me by my size. You know, so it's like, now it's the involution, or the evolution, it sounds like it's evolved, right? It sounds like it's going out. Involution, it's really going in now. It's the internal evolution, is the way we're thinking, like what you're talking about. It's the way we are breathing. It's the way, and those are all internal things, you know.
Well, also externally, how we relate to the world. Are we reacting, or are we responding to the world around us? Because if we're reacting, by definition, reaction is action against oncoming forces. So you're going against the flow. You are creating your own suffering. No wonder reaction is the royal road to create stress, which is the epidemic happening in America and worldwide. Well, if we realize that we are at the cause of our own stress, then we would just have the freedom of choice whether to keep doing that to ourselves or to stop doing it.
Right.
Well, if we have the wherewithal and the tools to stop doing it, we will literally have no stress in our lives. If we realize that we don't have problems in our lives, what would it be like to live life without problems?
I don't know, but I'm not living free of problems yet. Maybe I need to take your training.
I would love to have you take my training. And certainly, I think that not only you, but everybody in the Qigong community, and especially in the Qi revolution and Qi activation community, would benefit from simple and elegant transformations of a way of thinking and a way of acting and responding to the world. And that's exactly why I also approached you with the idea of Qigong coaching that we could offer to all the people that have taken the Qi evolution and revolution events, and now they are perhaps hungry for something that would continue progressing them down this path. And that's something that I think would benefit thousands of people and also would affect millions of people because it would have a ripple effect. Now, when we're talking about the future of your events, I would imagine that it would make sense to also just ask you one more question about your personal next step. Where do you see yourself as a Qigong practitioner in next year or two?
My journey as a personal practitioner has changed a lot in the last 2 years, mainly through the development of the Qigong strength training that I released last year. That has forced me to be on my journey to 100 push-ups. You know, I'm stronger now than I've ever been in my life. I actually, to be this age and say I'm at my peak strength right now, it feels good.
How old are you?
I'm 36. Yeah. So, and I used to be able to do many things, very physical, always my whole life. But I'm stronger now than ever before. So I feel like my personal goal is really, if I can just keep getting stronger and healthier, that's really what it's about for me. You know, my personal practice, I'll probably be developing more Qigong strength training, which uses like hyper fast movements, slow movements, push-ups, but it combines it with slow Qigong breathing to recover faster. And you know, I like horse stance. I'm really into that kind of training right now. And when I get older, who knows, I'll probably, when I go into my water phase, when I hit 48, I'll probably be like, Jeff is only teaching sitting meditation now. You know, I don't know. But right now I'm really into the sweat as much as possible, get a six-pack, and that's where I'm at right now.
Well, it's interesting because I was a badass before I became a Tibetan Lama. I was in the military, and I was a professional martial artist and bodyguard.
Right.
So, and also worked for a short time as a stuntman. So
stuntman.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That.
Yeah.
Trained stuntman.
Cool.
And what happens is that you realize that the strength that I studied, strength training that I studied, that comes from the Shaolin tradition.
Yeah.
Is way above and beyond anything else that I've ever seen. And what happens is that it really engages the body in training itself. Not to just do a certain number of repetitions, but actually training muscles antagonists so that they are balanced. Because you see a lot of people, they can do 100 push-ups, or they can go in the gym and do huge weights, you know, bench presses. But then they get up and their pecs are stronger than the muscles of the back.
Mm-hmm.
So their body is out of alignment.
Right.
That means that the bone structure of the skeleton is no longer carrying their weight, so they have to use the muscles to struggle against the gravity.
Absolutely.
And that creates energy blockages, which basically leads to health issues. And plus they also constantly are in pain because of this misalignment. So one of the things that I envision, because I also teach Qigong strength training, and it's obviously different from yours just because I don't go for speed, I go for strength.
Right.
And developing the strength through self-resistance rather than going against gravity or against weights or machines.
Isometrics.
Different from isometrics, because isometric by definition is not moving.
Right.
It's static.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is I'm constantly moving.
I get
so
it.
it's an ongoing movement. It's just like, for example, you do Kung Fu in slow motion with intensity.
Yeah, I get it.
And what happens is that I have a whole system that I've learned when I was 17. And when I learned that, I literally started increasing my strength exponentially. Then I just kind of got complacent and didn't get much deeper into training myself. Then I started working with other people, and I see how they started improving. And I'm like, why don't I improve just as well as my students do? And so now, for myself, I'm on the path of working on my own strength training. So it's kind of interesting. You are saying something that reflects back to me in my own understanding of my own next step. If you don't mind, let me ask you to wrap up our interview. What would you say to our viewers and listeners as kind of the final word of wisdom, so to speak?
Practice something that gets you in a good mood. Don't practice something you don't like to practice. If you're not enjoying your practice, then don't practice that. Practice something you like and get lots of fresh air. Eat the high phytochemical diet. Try making a smoothie with an avocado seed. And I always encourage love. If you have love in your life, you have someone special, your chi will be enhanced through love. So that's it, that's my final message.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a pleasure to interview you today. You've been listening to the talk show, The Secrets of Qigong Masters, brought to you by Academy of Qidao, the first and only school in the world offering professional education in Tai Chi and Qigong coaching. To find out about Academy of Qidao and to see how you too can become a professional Tai Chi or Qigong coach, please visit qigongcoaching.com. This show is also brought to you by Mastery Magazine, featuring Masters of the Month. And to enjoy watching the interviews with Masters of the Month, please go to qigongmasters.com. Thank you once again, Jeff. It's been such a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Lama.